Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the TexAgs High School Football Show, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy has all your high school football road trip needs this season. Get the right gear for the long season with free curbside pickup today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the TexAgs High School Football Show, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Don't forget, you can enter for your chance to win $10,000 in Academy gift card money and SEC championship game tickets just by signing into the Academy app. The ultimate SEC football sweepstakes runs until November 18th. No purchase necessary. Odds depend on entries received, on when the entries are received. Again, that ends on November 18th. You can find the complete rules at academy.com/official-rules. Jason, the weather is getting colder, at least for the time being. Who knows? It could be 90 by the end of the week, but that means playoffs are inching closer and closer. It's crazy how fast these things go. It feels like just yesterday we were doing our preseason predictions. But
I know.
One more regular season week left across the state of Texas, and you'll finally be back in Dallas for a couple of games. But why don't you recap your weekend first, and we'll get into this thing.
All right, man. Well, yeah, this weekend I was out in East Texas for a Friday night matchup. You know, playoffs on the line. Pine Tree hadn't been in, I think Dalen Evans said it was since his freshman year, and Mount Pleasant, both, evenly matched going into the contest, tied in district play, and got to see Pine Tree put a 41-14, beat down in the second half on Mount Pleasant. It was pretty touch and go there for a lot of the first half, and Mount Pleasant came back with a first a score in the first drive of the second half. But Pine Tree was able to pull away and get a really well-deserved win. They were the better team on that night, and Dalen Evans showed some flashes. Had a TFL. I don't know if you saw it, but it was some violence, man. He burst through for a big tackle for loss. He had a pass deflection early in the first quarter that led to an interception. Was in the backfield pretty constantly, pretty regularly. A guy I was really impressed with was junior Pine Tree wide receiver Jordan Taylor, 5'10", 165 pounds, made several big special teams plays, some big returns, and had the first two Pine Tree touchdown receptions. And Quentin Clark is an edge defender that I think a lot of people are missing on. 6'3", 215. Kind of in that tweener range, but he's got a nice wingspan, and he doesn't have a lot of film, but he at linebacker. But he said that he's more comfortable at linebacker than he is defensive end, where he's just been a constant all season long. Yeah, that's a sleeper that I could see a lot of schools needing to check into. He's got a Grambling offer. He's got some small school interest, some SFA, UNT, Memphis, some G5s there. But I think this guy, he could end up being. I could see him going somewhere and portaling out in a year or two. If he makes the right decision. And then Mount Pleasant has a couple guys. One 2026, DeCorian Thompson. He really caught my eye. He limited his receiver to 0 yards, and had a blocked PAT and a blocked field goal. He's his brother. You may have heard of him, KD Cannon. So he's got some athleticism in that family. And he's a guy to watch. And I believe his older brother, he's got another brother that's in the 24 class that's committed to Louisiana Tech. So, a guy to keep an eye on out there, 5'11", 170 pounds, good looking prospect.
Good deal. I like when you go to East Texas. I feel like we uncover some diamonds in the rough every time you go out there because it's not a place that is easily not a lot of
Yeah.
people go out there every week, right? Because it's not Dallas or Houston or San Antonio. So
Mhm.
I feel like when you go out there and you make a trip, you always end up finding somebody at some school where you're like, man, this kid's a player and nobody's even talking about him. And it sounds like the kid at Pine Tree is definitely one to keep an eye on there. For me, speaking of kids that I think are under recruited, I went to see Katie Tompkins and Katie Jordan on Thursday night, kind of the same deal as your game, where it was huge playoff implications there. Katie Tompkins had to win to just even get in. I think Katie Jordan had
Mhm.
secured a spot, but Katie Tompkins was kind of when they went through a long stretch where they didn't have some of their best players due to injury. It was really put them in a tight spot in must-win situations here late, and man, they pulled away from Katie Jordan in a really impressive victory, 42-24. 49-24. And Wyatt Young, we're talking about kids that are under recruited. I can't believe that
You've been
every
on him for a while.
yeah, group of five school in the state of Texas in the region isn't all over him. Even potentially like an Oklahoma State or Baylor. Some of these other P5s in the region, I just cannot believe they have not
Mm.
offered this kid. But he was simply sensational on the night. Accounted for 4 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 1 through the air, and iced the game with his legs. And when you do that, when you run the ball, I think to the effect of like 294 yards for Katie Tompkins. When you do that, you got to lean on the big uglies up front, and one of those big uglies for Katie Tompkins is Texas A&M
There
offensive
you
line
go.
commit Ashton Funk. And it's funny, every time I go watch Ashton play, it's like as the game goes on, he just kind of grows into it. And you can see by the middle of the second quarter into that halftime run and then coming out of halftime, like he's really lathered up and knows what he's looking at and hitting his target and moves people off the ball. And it's weird because I was talking to his dad for a while and they've changed kind of how they do their run blocking scheme under a brand
Mhm.
new offensive line coach. And they're having him pull less and they're having him really just like they want him to just kind of wall defenders off and get between the defender and the ball carrier. So he's fine with doing whatever, but I'm really looking forward to whenever he gets into college and seeing him move around like we saw him do as a
Mhm.
sophomore and junior a little bit more because he's so good and so athletic on those pulls. You know, one of the things too that I think maybe nationally Ashton gets knocked for is people say he has short arms. You know, he measured his arms at 79 and a half inches. That's plenty long enough for me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's not an 84-inch wingspan like you see on some guys, but it's not like he's like a T-Rex out there. But
No.
so anyway, huge win for Coach McVay and the Falcons as they secure a playoff spot. And then on Friday night, went right down the road from where I'm sitting at A&M Consolidated to see the rivalry between the Consol Tigers and the College Station Cougars. And let me say this before, and I wrote it in my Bronny's Best. Just a special shout out to the city of College Station. You know, going into that game, I thought there would be some juice to it. Consol was playing much better. College Station, obviously, um, recent state championship, and then last year all the way to the state finals before they lost to Alito. So I figured that the town would show up. I didn't know it would be like that. I mean, from the time I got into the stadium about an hour before kickoff, that place was electric. Both student sections going crazy. The community members filled up both sides. There was standing room only on both sides. People were living and dying off every play. There was just so much energy in that place. And like
That's awesome.
as a citizen of the city of College Station, and rightly so, this place gets labeled as a college town for, and it is in a lot of people's minds
It's in
across
the
the
name.
state, right? But you know, people associate Texas A&M with College Station, and so to see that sense of community and that rivalry atmosphere be the way that it was, I hope that it's that way for many, many years to come. It was right up there, and I've been to a lot of big ones. I've been to Judson, Austin Westlake. I've been to Austin
Mhm.
Westlake, Lake Travis, Nederland, PNG. Uh, this one was right up there with the best atmospheres I've ever been in, and so I just
That's
tip of the
awesome.
hat to the community here. And then you know College Station wins just an incredible game. They score with 16 seconds left. Arrington Maiden to Jake Pivoteau uh, to give the College Station Cougars a 49-42 win. Of all the players, and for College Station, they're a little bit more well known because they've been playing a lot more football.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you who the best not pro prospect, perhaps pro prospect, but the best college Division One Power Five prospect on the field is 2025 Consol kicker Colton Schmaler.
No.
Now this he's
You
six
do
foot
love
two.
you a kicker, man.
Well, he was 6 foot. He's 6'2", 190 pounds, and he starts at receiver, and he's
Okay.
a soccer player that just started kicking footballs. And this kid, I mean, he was good from 56 in warmups,
Okay.
and then was kicking from 60 plus and missed right left. He didn't miss because of distance. So there's plenty of juice in that leg. And with the body type, you just don't see kickers that are that big and athletic.
Yeah.
He looks like what an NFL guy could look like. But on the College Station side, Arrington Maiden has had a fantastic season. He was awesome. Aiden Martinez Brown ran for 250 something yards. Jake Pivoto, who's the son of Bradley Dale Pivoto, former A&M linebacker coach now at UTEP, and the Miners just offered him. He had 2 touchdown catches, 1 to end the half, and then that game winner right there at the end. But you know what? The story of the night was just the atmosphere and the rivalry and how cool that was. So glad I was there to see that.
No doubt, man. That sounds awesome. You got to love those it's the small town feel of a big game, a big high school football game. And it sounds like College Station really, really brought it in a big, big way this weekend.
What else stood out to you in DFW? I got 2 games in Houston.
Well, there were some big district matchups and with state implications. In 4-6A you had Trophy Club, Byron Nelson and South Lake Carroll going at it, undefeated, entering the contest. And I got to give Byron Nelson a lot of credit. People were kind of sliding to the favorite. South Lake's owned that district for a number of years, and Byron Nelson came in and brought it, and they got out early and they never let off the gas. 34-17 over South Lake in a game that was moved up due to weather. Another one that was impacted by weather, DeSoto Duncanville, originally expected to be played on Friday, was moved to Saturday afternoon. And I gave Duncanville, I went with Duncanville, going into this game. I just thought, the talent and the, just what the resume over the last few years and this one was a little bit better. And DeSoto got out again. And, this one they had a double-digit lead at halftime. So, then went on to win fairly easily, which 49-35. You had, I got to shout out a few big performances in this game. Keelan Abrams, 11 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 8 pressures. Edge defender. He's on the smaller side, already committed to Purdue. But he definitely he gave Duncanville everything they wanted and put himself on the map for a lot of programs. DJ Bailey is a guy he's quarterback DeSoto, guy that we've liked for a long time. 73% completion rate on the day, 17 of 23, 268 yards and 4 touchdowns. And he had six passes, went to Dalen Singleton, who had 179 yards on the night, 29 yards per reception, and 2 touchdowns and a 95-yard kickoff return. So big shout out to those DeSoto Eagles. They earned that win. They deserve it. I was wrong. But
a lot of people would have been.
I tell you what, I expect both of those teams to make deep playoff runs. So Duncanville's not going anywhere. DeSoto's just that good. And then you had Richland with a big win for a district race, 37-27 over Mansfield Timberview. And McKinney bouncing back in a big way with a 37-20 win over Denton Guyer.
Yeah, I think that DeSoto versus Duncanville scoreline, those were 2 massive games in the state. That was one of them, and Houston was Atascocita and North Shore. But, I mean, I texted you on Saturday night and I said, are you seeing what DeSoto's doing? Like, nobody does that to Duncanville.
No.
That was a really impressive scoreline. For me, 2 scores really stood out in the greater Houston area. Barbers Hill 52, Port Arthur Memorial 23.
Ooh.
Knocks the Titans out of the top 10. That's a huge win for Barbers Hill.
Yeah.
They're on the east side of Houston. I mean, they ran away. I think they had like a 24-7 run. It was a tight game, and then the Eagles go on a 24-7 run there. to really put it away. I mean, that raised my eyebrows there pretty quick because I thought Port Arthur Memorial would cruise through an undefeated regular season schedule. And then the other big matchup that I mentioned, North Shore Tascasita, man, it's just like everything else. Like as soon as you start questioning North Shore,
Yeah.
they come out and they do something that makes you go, okay, they're still an absolute wagon. North Shore 61, Tascasita 35, and it really that score line, even though it's a 26-point win for North Shore, that kind of flatters Atascocita from the way it was told to me. That game was just complete domination for Coach Gaston and the Mustangs. And you mentioned DJ Bailey, Caleb Bailey, back playing really good football for North Shore. And, man, it just are we back on track for North Shore Duncanville Part 4? It could be that way in 6A Division 1. I'm sure Austin Westlake will have something to say about that as well. But maybe even Atascocita, you know, they're probably gonna get them again at some point in the playoffs. If you know, Atascocita, their run in to the end of the season is really tough. They had an overtime thriller with CE King last week. They get 2 weeks ago, get North Shore this past weekend, and then this coming weekend they get Summer Creek, who is you know, that Summer Creek team in 6A D2 is going to be a problem in Houston.
They pushed North Shore pretty well, didn't they?
Yep, they did. So. And they are really stout on defense. So interesting as we get into playoff time, and a lot of matchups getting rounded out. And so I guess we will close without – we're going to do a show next week with playoff predictions.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what our preseason predictions look like anymore. I probably don't want to know. I know I guess Argyle's playing better football. They were one of my picks to win state, and they're playing much better football after a slow start. But we'll do some playoff predictions next week. But where are you rounding out your regular season?
I'm going to be right here in DFW. It's been a while. I want to say it's been about a month since I've seen a DFW area game. Thursday night, I'll be in McKinney for the Prosper matchup there with the McKinney Lions. You know, should be a tough one. Both teams getting tested going into the playoffs. Prosper, I believe, clinched district last week, and
man, that's
McKinney's
a good program.
right there. Both have some dudes in the trenches and a lot of defense. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then on Friday night, I'll be at Lancaster to see Lancaster host Lufkin. And I'm really excited about this game. A lot of talent.
Two great running backs.
Yeah, two of the best running backs in the state. You know, some talented underclassmen with guys like Zion Williams out there. You're gonna you know want to follow along with this one. It should be a fun one to close out my regular season.
All right, on Thursday night, I'm headed to my favorite stadium in Houston, the Berry Center there at Cy-Fair, to see Bridgeland take on Cy Springs, who's probably the surprise of the city of Houston in this season. They have one loss. They lost a nail-biter to Cy Falls a couple of weeks ago, and Lonnie Madison's got the Bears in a really good spot. So looking forward to that game on Thursday night. Then Friday, headed over to Willis to see Willis take on Conroe Oak Ridge. And look, DJ Lagway's got an argument for Player of the Year in the state of Texas the way he's going. He absolutely demolished the Woodlands last week. I believe they put up 65 points, and he just feels like they're doing that every week offensively. So over there to see DJ, but also, you know, they got some really talented kids in that 2025 group there at Willis, DeLeon Robinson. They got 26 offensive linemen who actually moved in from Allen, and Dejon Moore. Jermaine Bishop may be the top player in the state in the class of 26. So, or at least he's got an argument to be that. He'll be in the top 5, I think, once we do our rankings there. So super talented group for Coach Trent Miller and the Wildcats. And they steadily start moving up that 6A rankings, and they're closing in on the top 10 right here as we head into the playoffs. So, Jason, I guess stay warm, stay dry, and stay close to home. You finally get to do that this weekend. For Jason Howell, I'm Ryan Brauninger. Thanks for tuning in to the TexAgs High School Football Show.